Hi, and welcome to this live show on Webpiano Academy. Um, I have here Kristine Musgrove, and as usual, I made a mistake, and we were live without being live, but now we are live. Kristine is currently a music education PhD candidate at Western University, where her research focuses on pedagogy employed in secondary instrumental ensembles. She holds a master's degree in music education from Florida International University, Miami, and a Bachelor of Music from Stetson University in Deland, Florida. Kristine has experience teaching percussion to all ages in a variety of contexts. And before attending Western University, Kristine was employed as a middle school choir teacher in Berkeley County, West Virginia, where she also taught intermediate school beginner band for fourth and fifth graders. And prior to that, Kristine taught concert band, orchestra, guitar, music theory, and percussion at the secondary level in South Florida. So welcome back, Kristine. I'm sorry that it happened. It happened again, and I don't know what to do about that, but okay. It's the internet. Okay. Tell us. No, I know you told me
That's okay.
already, but tell to everybody again. So how your journey in music started, and what brought you to actually research in music education.
Sure. Yeah, I started doing band in sixth grade. I did saxophone sixth through 12th grade. And then in ninth grade, I started doing marching band as well. I actually just showed up to marching band drumline practice in ninth grade and didn't say that I didn't play percussion. I just showed up. My friend and I did. There was limited communication between the middle school and high school directors, and so I did the whole season in marching band playing percussion. And then when
And
concert
nobody
band came
about
around,
that.
no one said anything. And then concert band came around, and I just walked in with my saxophone, and she was not happy.
Of course
that we
not.
that we did that, but I really wanted to play percussion, and unfortunately in middle school we had no female percussionists. We all got put
Right.
on woodwind
Yeah,
and brass.
you told me before, when we were live, that you saw a female
Yeah.
percussionist in marching band as a kid, so you were
Yeah,
inspired. So,
I had a neighbor across the street that played the bass drum, and I just thought that was the cool as a kid, I thought that
yeah,
was the coolest thing ever. There was when I was younger, there was not much,
it's
there
kind
was
of unique. I mean, if you have that kind of position,
yeah.
of being in a place where everybody's a male, and then you say, I can
Yeah,
do
I
that
mean,
too.
it's gotten much better, but when,
Right.
this was the late 90s, early 2000s, and there wasn't YouTube, and there wasn't as
Yeah.
many outlets for representation, so I
Yes.
never really saw a lot of females playing percussion, and I didn't really know it was a possibility for me until I saw her, and I was like, that's cool, like I can do
Yeah.
that too. And then I got to middle school, and there was still none, and unfortunately, he just didn't do that. I don't know why. I'd love to ask now. And so, yeah, and I started playing percussion, and I was very lucky. I was at a high school. I had band every day, and I had percussion class every day. So
Yeah,
I
that's
got
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's unusual, and I got to learn how to play all the different instruments. So when I went on to university or to college, I did struggle a bit because my program was very marching band focused, and when you go
Mhm.
into music education, it's not marching band focused, it's classical percussion, so
Right.
there was a learning curve, but, I think my work ethic that I had from marching band helped me navigate
Yeah.
that issue, and I ended up, making my way to Florida. I was in Florida for most of my 20s. I did my bachelor's there, my master's there, and I taught there. And that's when I was in this traditional world for so long, and then I did my master's with two professors who introduced me to a lot of other ways about thinking about music education that I had never been exposed to before. and I started thinking about bringing in different types of musics and pedagogies. My master's, I uh, sort of experimented with bringing music technology into the classroom, and I had project with my students where they were using GarageBand and Symphonius and other types of apps, and I also interviewed them about what kind of apps they use. Because I was in Miami, I had a very rich culture of students from
Yeah.
all over the world, and so different. I was able to really talk to them about what music was familiar to them and what they enjoyed playing, and I was able to pair students that with other do like pairings of students a lot. Where I had one kid who was like a really great violinist for classical music, and then I had this other kid who was a great violinist for jazz. So I kind of paired them together, and which was weird to have a kid who was really great at jazz violin because that's not really
Right, it's not common. Yeah.
not super common, but he was amazing, and I was able to pair them together, and they were able to learn from each other, and so
Yeah.
I kind of just exploring like this idea of bringing in different types of music and pedagogies, and I do want to say like I very much respect the traditional uh, the
Yeah.
tradition of Western classical music, and that's how I came
Yeah.
to really enjoy music. But I do think that there's room to broaden what we're doing within the secondary level, the tertiary level,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So we were talking about the fact that the way that you are kind of envisioning, right, music education now is basically what was in the past, like how Mozart was taught, how Beethoven was taught, how kind of Liszt learned how to play the piano and compose his own pieces, improvise on his own melodies, and do all those things. In the past, there was no just piano lesson, right, where you just learn piano or learn percussion, learn violin. It was like everything was embedded in the lesson, like technique, composition, improvisation, theory, and just performing. And
Yeah.
barely, I think there was barely somebody who was really great who was going out there and perform somebody else's music. Like Mozart would perform his own music, would really go out and start playing somebody by somebody else, right? But so it changed a lot, and my thought has always been that because there was this publishing the industry really publishing more music
Mm,
and kind of
right.
going around and distributing all this music, and then obviously then we have lost a little bit the composition part of learning music or the improvisation aspect, but so that's something that we should probably think about, right? And start kind of and then that happens still, I think, pop rock, in those bands, they write their own music, they do their own things, they don't really kind of go ahead and just, copy or kind of sing something by somebody else. They still do it, but not in classical music anymore, and not in the classroom then. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the publishing aspect is something that I definitely think a lot about. I know when I was teaching, I always struggled finding repertoire for my students because I didn't want to be doing the greatest hits, the same stuff everyone else was doing, but then trying to find other stuff, I couldn't really find things that I
Yeah.
thought made sense. And I tried to do a lot of activities where they were arranging activities initially. I think that that's a great place to start,
Yes.
because coming up with stuff all by yourself can be pretty difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience, or actually several experiences in my teaching career. When I was teaching in Germany, I had a group of elementary school students. So it was a kind of a music lesson where they learned how to play the flute, and then they learned how to read music and all those things. But I also had some students who played some other instruments. So what we did at the end of the year, instead of the usual musical that they had to kind of, sort of concert at the end of the year, I asked them to put something together, and it was like based on a tale. The tale had already been written, obviously, so it was based on a tale, and they had just to provide the music, maybe the songs, and the kind of the acting for all the single scenes, and everything was written by them. So I just didn't do anything. They coordinated everything. It was beautiful, and it was nice, and it was an experience I think that they will keep forever. And then I
Yeah.
had another experience with my chimes ensembles here. I only have 6 people. Most of the pieces that are published for chimes would require you to have a lot of notes, and I only have 6 people. That means 12 notes. So I cannot do much, and they don't read notes so well. So I had to limit the amount of, I don't know, for example, rhythmic challenging pieces, and I had to, set a limit to that. So what I did was I took out the pieces, rewrote it, and then you give that to them, and they say, okay, so that's an arrangement just for this group, and that's it. But I think not everybody feels free to do that in a classroom, right? When you have kids, and that's your research about it. You interviewed several professors that were trying to implement new forms of teaching music in classrooms in their kind of curriculum. So how did it go?
Yeah, it was an experience. I learned well, 2 of the schools, the curriculum change was they were told they had to make change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little different than the 3rd school, which they decided on, the music ed department decided on their own that they were gonna change.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, there was opposition from mostly every other music subcategory, performance, theory, history, because to make change, you often have to reduce coursework in another area, and then people are
Mm-hmm.
afraid for their jobs. And then there's also the issue of, we've been doing it this way for so long, why are we all of a sudden deciding to change? But there's so much work that's been done that's shown that statistically in the States that enrollment in secondary music programs is low.
Yeah.
And we would probably speculate that that's because there has been very little change in
Yeah.
that. And when students are going out into the world and listening to music that they're familiar with, and then going to music class and playing music they've never heard in their life,
Right.
it makes it a little bit difficult. And I do think that there is a place for playing traditional music, but I think that the issue often lies in that when we do play music that's not traditional, that is familiar to students, it's arrangements that are often arranged quite poorly, and
Yeah.
they're taught in a way that's very similar to how they're learning the traditional repertoire, when that's not
Right.
typically how people interact with more popular music. You're not usually just reading off notes off a sheet
The
music.
score. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then there's the issue of teacher training. The students who typically like the traditional ways are the ones that normally go to school to learn how to be teachers. So there's this
Right.
cycle that's going on. There is one of the schools that is working with a school in their community that does more music engineering type of coursework,
Uh-huh.
and they're actually trying to make it so that those students can go to their own school for 2 years and learn how to do more music production type things, and then come
Mm-hmm.
and do 2 more years in the university to get a teaching credential
Yeah.
so that they can actually teach, because it's really hard to get a degree in music education unless you play a band, string, or wind percussion instrument or piano.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it makes it hard, and it doesn't make much sense to me, because I've read the NASME like the handbook for the National Association for Schools of Music. I've gone through that, and nowhere does it say that we have to teach classical music. Nowhere does it say that we
Yeah.
have to play these specific instruments. So there's no reason that we can't be
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
broadening what we
I
do.
think there is a basic knowledge that is common for it doesn't really matter if you play them in the string orchestra or kind of in a band, or kind of you play the piano, percussion, or anything. So you just have this basic knowledge which is common to me and to you, and then maybe we don't even play the same instrument, but it's common, right? And then
Mhm.
you can play pop music or rock music, and then I can play classical music, but still we base that language on a combination of sounds, its structure. There's things that are kind of similar to, and I think that's what they miss, because really kind of, for example, for some kids playing in this in the orchestra, right? That's the only exposure that might ever have, maybe, to certain type of music, and that's not part of the language. And then we miss to start really from what the students know, right? Even in elementary school, from what the students know, and then we go, and then we might expand their kind of knowledge with something else. So, so you were talking about the experience of the graduates in this program. So what was the experience of the graduates that you interviewed for your research project?
It was definitely a spectrum. I had 9 people that I interviewed, 3 from each school, and for the most part, there were some instances, almost in every single case, where they were doing something that laid outside of what you would traditionally see in a band or orchestra classroom. The conductor at the front, semicircles, kids playing off sheet music. There was one that did. He said that he was interested in doing stuff differently, but he was doing nothing differently. And then there was one on the other end who was definitely trying to do things that were differently, and he did the best at sort of trying to interweave these ideas instead of siloing them off. And then the others in between, it was very much a siloed off
Yeah, I think
activity.
it should be very difficult down to being the new music teacher, and then start
Yeah.
teaching in a new way. And I can imagine the colleagues not being happy with that, because
Yeah.
yeah, we always done that. We always done that for the past 20 years now. Why are you changing anything? Right?
That was the issue. Yeah, that they talked to me about. Some of them expressed to me, uh, and that is that, yeah, they took this coursework, but the coursework that was about these other musics and types of teaching was in no way did they in the course relate it to what they're actually going to be doing. So
Right.
when they got into the classroom, it's like, okay, I got to learn how to teach band first before I learn how to do these things that are different. And then if I do these things that are different, I have no models whatsoever to look off of. I have no one who's doing this.
Right.
So it's easier to pop out, the method book. It's easier to play the
Yeah.
standard
Right.
lit. It's classroom
And
management is
probably
easier.
really kind of the lack of models that they can follow, then it might make things more difficult to implement in a school, right? So I think the job, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the universities should already, if that offering this type of alternatives, right? They should already kind of provide also a model, right? So that the students might kind
Yeah,
of say, okay, so when you go in a school district and they have this and this and this, because that's standards that every
yeah,
school is following. So maybe the university should already offer that and say, okay, so when you go there, you can follow this kind of template and do this and this and this and this. So it would be easier then for them to implement it, rather than say, okay, so
yeah,
you know that there's this, and then just go and do it, right? And then it's a very, very difficult, I guess.
yeah. There's lots of barriers for sure. I mean, there's the issue of what if you're a new teacher, your administration, you may not want to do something different because you don't
Right.
want to.
Yeah,
And
that's why
obviously,
I say, no,
yeah,
right? It should be university led. That a university, the music education program would have an experiment in a school district, and then have the students really kind of implement that. It would be easier for them really kind of to follow through, and then say, okay, good, now that's how we do that, and then we continue doing it as an experiment first, and then when they see the results, probably they would be more interested also in kind of implementing that. I don't know, why do students have to, for example, now talking about musicals, why do they have to prepare a musical for months that somebody else has written? while you might have your own students writing your musical with the music teacher, right? And then they have a cooperation between, I don't know, orchestra, band, and whoever is singing there, instead of having these things that somebody else has written and spend a lot of money in doing the soundtracks and buying the scores. And then, I mean, it would be just like very convenient for the school if that would be a project, right? Instead of, I don't know. I don't think that those scores are written really for, the school kids. It's just more making money things. But so that's my
Yeah.
opinion. Whenever I accompanied in for some musicals in the high school, I was always wondering why those kids. I was like, they're just kids. Why are they preparing all those things, staying in the school for so many hours? Most of the time, they're not doing anything. They're just waiting for their turn to.
Yeah.
Yeah. While they could, use their time to actually create something which is more. The time would be spent in a more effective way rather than waiting in a school. I always hated when I was a student. So I hated to wait in the
Yeah.
classroom doing nothing, right? I always thought that, and I guess it should be an idea, But so talking about rhythm now. How do you what is that you what is rhythm, or how would you define it?
Oh, wow. I guess that's a good question. I guess it would be just, I want to say, organized sound. It doesn't have to be pitched, but I mean, I guess it could be at really unorganized sound as well. If you're being more experimental.
Right.
Typically, when I talk about rhythm, it's more of talking about how we're fitting certain ideas within the beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's typically. I don't. I like to do a lot of showing students um, rhythms first, and then we kind of talk about what they look like on the
Hmm.
page. I'm a
Right.
big fan of that. I'm not into using the same method book and going from page one to the end, and um, I don't like usually teaching in that way. I try to teach in a way in which I find out what they already know and what they'd like to know, and how we can sort of navigate that together. But when I teach rhythm, I use a couple different methods. I used to be a real big advocate of like, you need to use numbers, you need to, one end, two end, three end, or one end to two
Yeah.
end, or whatever. And then I worked with different age groups and different ability levels. And people with different maybe learning differences, and I found that using more of a Kodai method works
Mhm.
really well regardless of ability level and age. So typically I will start out using that more of TT-TAs and Tika
Right.
Tika, and then I will typically I'll start with that, and then if I feel like they are that's in there, they've got that, then I'll start using the other one, but I won't really say that I'm using the other one. I'll kind of go in between them, and then eventually
Yeah.
we'll chat about like, okay, this is how this is.
Yeah.
Especially if you have something that's very complicated time signature, sometimes trying to throw those numbers in can be
It's
really
yeah.
it can be
I
a
had
lot.
I had one of my students. I don't know. He had an old book. I didn't give him that book, but he had it, so we are using it. And then there are the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 below the notes, right? And the student kept confusing himself between the numbers below the notes and the numbers of the fingers, and then he
Oh,
was like
yeah.
super confused about all those things. But I go the same way. I start teaching. I think a rhythm is so much in connection with movement, or which whatever we do. Whatever it passes in time, even now talking to you, right, or kind of going somewhere else, and that's kind of a part of my personal rhythm, right? And my personal kind of movements. So that we walk and we have a certain rhythm by walking, because we mostly walk regularly, or we decide not to walk regularly at one point, right? So I connect a lot of my teaching rhythm to how we move. Like how long does it take to do this? As a very low note, right? Or a long note. And then when they start doing that and they start really kind of getting the beat, right? Then, after we introduce the figures, after they can read, the kind of different kind of combination of rhythm, then at one point I say, okay, now let's count 4 on the fingers. I don't even say that's 4. Just let's count 4. Let's see how the beat is combined together. And then it's easy to transition to the 3, 6, 8. I don't know, any kind of other time signature. But I think you're right. It's kind of really counting. I think I had one of my students, his mom taught him somehow. I wasn't teaching that, but she confused the student with naming quarter notes, eighth notes, and then the student wasn't really kind of following, because I was saying a tick 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 tick, right? And it was like, my mom said it's an 8 note. Okay, yeah, but just that's the name of that, but it's not how we kind of should perceive it, right?
Right.
So it's a kind of it's very difficult actually to teach following the numbers and say, oh, that's 4. Or I kind of when the students say, for example, that some books actually write that. In some books, it's actually written that whole note is 4. So you count 4, or it's 4 seconds or something like that. So just like, it's nonsense. So it's not 4 seconds. So it depends how you count, how fast or how slow you count. So yeah, and I think many of those kind of information or wrong information, they are supported by those books, right? The method books that are around and that shouldn't be, or should be corrected at least in the way they. So you have this beautiful YouTube channel, right?
Right.
Tell me about how that started.
I've had a long time been thinking about doing some sort of YouTube channel, and I like watching YouTube. I enjoy I'm subscribed to many different types of channels, not just music related, on my personal YouTube. And so I thought this is really cool. This is a way where people can interact and learn lots of things that for free. And so I kind of was brainstorming about what to do, and then I started kind of investigating YouTube and trying to figure out, okay, what content is out here that's music related, maybe percussion related, and where are the gaps? Like what's missing? Because there's a lot of great stuff on YouTube, but there's also a lot of not great stuff on YouTube.
Right.
And
yes.
so there's a lot of misinformation from in many different topics.
I saw a lot of I don't know, a lot of scales played at the piano doing this 1, 2, 3, and then turn everything around, and then there was like showing how to play scale. I was like, no, don't do that. So those are a lot of things. I can imagine for percussion what is out there.
There's just a lot where I was just thinking, well, this is great. This is not maybe what I'd recommend. And so I kind of said to myself, what if YouTube had existed when I was in middle school, high school, or had been popular when I was in university? Like, what would I have needed? Like, what would have been beneficial for me as a young musician? What would have been helpful for me? And so I was looking around. I saw there's a lot of educational type content, and it kind of was either someone talking way too much, like just talking and talking and talking, like, okay, what's the point of this? And then there was where people would just model something but it would often be modeled very fast, or it would be modeled in a way which wasn't really interactive. So I thought, well, what could I do that would
there was a student of mine who she's playing the arabesque by Debussy, and then she watched one of the videos on YouTube and she said, oh, there's this tutorial. It looks cool. He talks always about the chords and the chords. And I watched that video. I was like, that's way too fast, though. I mean, for a student who's just learning this, and then you just talk about chord progressions, it will confuse the student because it's just like
Yeah.
it would be, and some of the videos probably are too fast, confusing, or sometimes they're kind of not, without kind of any kind of goal or
Yeah.
orientation, and you don't know what they are whereabouts. But so I guess they're all trying. So
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, to each their own. Some people may like some of it, some things that I don't, and that's fine. But I just thought like, okay, well, what could I do that would be
right,
helpful? Like what?
yes,
And so I kind of was looking at some books and things, and I thought, well, it would be really great if someone could just pop onto YouTube and practice something that was quality practice, but not really long in duration because quality over like quantity, quality. You
yeah,
want to make sure you're. So I thought, well, maybe like, and also like I didn't really see people do things with a metronome at different tempos.
right,
And so I
yes,
thought, well, whatever the tempo is for something, normally, like what I do is I'll take it like 40, like the first time I do it, it's like 40 clicks under, and I'll do it
yeah,
a couple times, and then 30 clicks under, then 20, and then 10, and then add tempo. So you literally could just press play, and we could practice it slow, a little bit faster, a little bit faster, and then until you get a tempo. And then if you're struggling, it's YouTube. You can pause, you can
right,
rewind, you can go back, like
yeah,
like it. So I thought, well, this would be helpful for people, and I've had a slow but steady uptake in uh, views and subscribers and
yeah.
things like that. I'm still
I,
pretty much on the low end, but I'm trying.
Yes, but how do you did you structure your videos? So because I saw you have different playlists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
With that.
I, percussion's pretty versatile. There's lots of different types of playing with percussion. So when I first started out, I have some mallet stuff, scales, major, minor scales, couple octaves, different tempos. So that's kind of, I have a major scale playlist and a minor scale harmonic minor scale playlist. I haven't done melodic yet. I don't know if that's really, maybe I'll do that. But and then I was like, well, what if someone doesn't have access to a I'm fortunate. I have like a student model xylophone at my house. That's the only
Right.
mallet percussion I have. So I thought, well, most people have a drum pad.
Hmm.
If not, you can use your hands. Like it's not that big.
Right.
Like we're not doing any rolls or anything. So I started working out of this book called Stick Control, which is like the book for percussion. Doesn't
Uh-huh.
matter if you're doing classical, drum set, rudimental, whatever.
Right.
Everyone has this book. So I started just doing that, and so every section basically I'm doing the whole page for that section. There's
Uh-huh.
multiple sections for that page, but I'm just doing the first page. And just basically like we don't really talk enough about how to practice. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought, well, this is how I practice.
Right.
I don't talk in my videos. I haven't talked yet because I am a big advocate of like we talk as teachers, we often talk too much. So
We should model mostly, right? So because
yeah,
exactly, music especially, I think is based. Many things are based on imitation, and
yeah.
there is this understanding, yes, but I mean, I had, for example, I had a lot of trouble during the pandemic because I could show, but I also had to make sure that the kids are actually watching what I'm kind of. That's how I started
Yeah,
this channel, right? Because I really needed to show something. Also, why not being present with them in the same kind of
it's
room,
hard.
and talking and explaining was fine, but it was more painful, or kind of it took more longer than it usually
Yeah.
takes. Yeah.
Zoom lessons have been definitely been a challenge, but my hope is like if you with the stick control videos, if you start at page 1, anyone can start at page 1. A layman can start at page 1. Doesn't matter what age. They're not difficult patterns. And then as the pages get more, the patterns, and you can take these patterns and do whatever you want with them. You can use them on drum set. You can use them in different situations with just different facets of percussion. And then I have a couple. I have a couple books that are a little bit more advanced that I did. I have noticed that is a popular book, but not a lot of people have videos on them. So I try to do something where people can just hop on if they want to know. I'm doing now a series of drum set grooves.
Mhm.
I notice a lot of drummers, especially if they're self-taught, only know how to play rock grooves, and it's just all rock grooves. And so I was fortunate enough to study with someone who gave me this like 3-page document of grooves in pretty much every major style. So I've been doing that. I build the beat, do hands first, usually feet first usually, and then add do that for 4 bars, then add the hands, and then I have just me doing it at various tempos.
Yeah, I watched those videos. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and those are fun for it's fun for me too because as
I think
like
it's just I think that those kind of videos that you have on your channel are not only useful for somebody interested in percussion, but even kind of my own students can go there and just follow the rhythm and then try to read. The rhythm
yeah,
is the basic for kind of any kind of instrument we play, and as soon as you kind of can read and practice the rhythm, kind of try to coordinate things together. It's just great for any kind of
yeah,
instrument.
I've had some of my best at schools, I've had, like, percussion ensembles and stuff, and some of my best kids have been the kids who don't play percussion. It's that
Yeah,
trombonist that's playing bass marimba or that violinist that's playing xylophone, uh, and so, yeah, I mean, playing percussion or just doing rhythm in general, it's really helpful, and I'm hoping I have lots of ideas for more things. Eventually, I will make an appearance on my channel as
that would be nice.
myself.
You're already appearing here. Look at
I'm
this.
appearing here. Yeah, this is the first time I've actually like appeared
we
anywhere.
are we are privileged.
I try really hard to uh kind of get to it right away with my videos. And so I am going to eventually
Now
be
look at
more
my first videos were just the hands there, and now kind of I'm appearing.
yeah,
It is a process.
yeah, it's definitely a process, and I just try to like make things very streamlined. Like if
Yeah,
someone I know when like was an undergrad and I like my professor would be like, "Okay, you need to practice this page of this or this one." Like you can just go onto my channel, we can practice it together. And me being a PhD student and for so long, haven't got this channel has been like my opportunity to actually play. I have
yeah,
not been able to play. I'm in Canada. I'm not Canadian. I just got my permanent residency here, so I
yeah.
was not actually allowed to teach here to
Right.
children.
Yeah,
So I just started teaching privately again. I have a couple
yeah,
lessons on Zoom from back home, but yeah, and
yeah.
so it's been great to play and not sit in front of
Yes,
a
yes, of
computer and
course.
write. I mean, I haven't played drum set like that and played out of these books in forever, and now it's like I'm coming back to them so many years later with a whole different skill set. It's been really helpful for me. So,
Yes,
and I've had people private message me and leave comments that like that things are that the videos are helping them. So it definitely gives me motivation to keep
right.
doing them. I definitely want to grow the channel. I have some other things in the works too. I'm interested in I've been writing music as well, so I'm interested in
You
maybe
were preaching about composing and improvising.
yeah,
You have to them, right? So,
yeah, I have some stuff because when I was teaching, I had such frustration with the music that trying to purchase music that fit my needs as a teacher.
right.
So
Yes.
I'm trying to compose stuff that can can be tailored to different programs that they
Hmm.
can literally buy it, and then there's different versions within it with it they can tailor it to their programs,
Right.
to their instrumentation that they have. I think that's missing in a lot of you go to the websites and it's like, here's this piece, this is the level. It's like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
you can go buy this and you can figure out how it works within your program. So I'm interested in doing that, but that's a whole different step
Yes.
that I'm not really have time for right now. But once I finish my dissertation soon, I'm interested in setting that up as well. So it should be fun. I have some percussion stuff already done, a couple packets done with the mostly drumline stuff right now, but
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah.
issues with the drumline literature too. There's just lots of issues that I would like to
Yeah.
help make things better, contribute to make things better if possible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What are your plans after your dissertation? You were talking a little bit about this.
Yeah, there's plans. I am looking to get I have teaching certification in the States, in a couple states, so I'm looking
Mhm.
to see if I can get that transferred here.
Right.
My partner and I have applied to stay here, and finally we're approved, so we're not looking to move at the moment. So I'm looking to do that. I have a job or two that I've been applying for,
Mhm.
professor jobs.
Yes.
So those are kind of in the works as well. I mean, I got like this little part-time job doing lessons a couple days a week at this music store here, but it's kind of up in the air right now. I'm kind of just trying to focus on getting
Yeah.
this finished.
Dissertation done, right? Yes.
I
A
am
long. It is a long journey, right? So.
Yeah, I'm close, but I still have I gotta some stuff I gotta get done. So yeah, it's been a very long journey, which has not been helped by the pandemic, but
Yeah.
it's
The,
yeah.
the day you will finish the dissertation, we'll see like I'm free. You will feel like free to
Yes.
just think whatever you want to think without thinking about the dissertation.
Yeah, it'll be nice, and I'll be able to bring a lot. Like I was telling you before we went live, like I really enjoy making the videos. I enjoy playing in them. I enjoy editing them. I enjoy thinking up concepts for them. So it's something that I've really grown to enjoy, and I've
Yeah.
been doing it as sort of a something to do that's not directly it's a little bit related, I guess, but that is
Yeah.
not dissertation heavy, so it's
Yeah.
fun. I mean,
Right.
how could going to play the drum set not be fun? It's of
And I
course it's
like it.
fun.
What I like about having a YouTube channel where you can just like basically give away your knowledge, and it is for free for everybody to use. Is that we can provide quality information to everybody out there who can afford actually expensive music lessons. I mean
Yeah.
it would be expensive to have a lesson with me, it would be expensive to have a lesson with you, but because we are able to use this tool, we can share that information the best that we can to everybody out there, which is like a great thing to have, right? So okay, well, I thank you so much for being here with
Yeah,
us today.
absolutely.
And good luck with the dissertation. I'm sure
Thank
everything will be
you.
fine. And so I hope to see you in this channel, on your channel very, very soon. And so have a nice afternoon.
Thank
Bye.
you. See
Bye.
ya.